Okay, so today we're diving into a story I know a lot of you have been requesting.
Mm-hmm.
The June 1962 Alcatraz escape.
Ooh, yeah, classic.
A real classic. And you guys sent in a ton of great sources for this one.
It's amazing how much is out there.
Yeah, it really speaks to how this story just keeps captivating people, all these years
A
later.
mystery is just so
So
enduring.
exactly. So what we're going to try to do today is go beyond just like the basic facts
Right.
and really unpack the how did they actually pull this off?
Yeah, the ingenuity of the whole plan.
Totally. And then of course the big question,
A big one
what happened to them? Frank Moore's the Anglin brothers
vanished.
just vanished. And of course we can't forget about Alan West, the fourth guy.
Right, the one who didn't make it out.
Yeah, whose story took a bit of a different turn that night.
Definitely a key part of the whole thing.
For sure. So to set the scene, we're talking about Alcatraz Federal Penitentiary, June 11th and 12th, 1962.
Alcatraz. The Rock. Talk about a maximum security prison.
Yeah, an island fortress right there in San Francisco Bay.
Icy cold water, strong currents.
Not exactly a welcoming environment for a swim.
Definitely not.
So let's meet our main characters. Frank Morris first.
Read the pack.
Yeah, he seems to have been the mastermind. Born in 1926, orphaned young, tough life.
Yeah, in and out of trouble from a young age.
His first conviction at 13. Then you've got narcotics, armed robbery in his teens.
Wow.
He even had a period, believe it or not, where he was actually serving meals to other inmates
Oh, wow, ironic.
before ending up on the other side. Then later on, grand larceny, car theft, bank robbery.
This guy's got a resume.
He does. And here's the kicker. They say his IQ was in the top 2%.
Seriously.
Seriously. So he does time in Florida, Georgia, and get this, he actually escapes from Louisiana State Penitentiary
No way.
while serving 10 years for bank robbery. They catch him about a year later during a burglary,
Of course.
and that lands him, you guessed it, on Alcatraz on January 20th, 1960. Inmate number AZ1441.
So this guy had already tasted freedom once.
And knew what it took to break out.
Right. That experience plus his intelligence had to play a role in planning this escape.
Absolutely. Now, on to the Anglin brothers, John and Clarence.
A dynamic duo.
That's one way to put it. John was born in May 1930, Clarence in May 31. From a big family, 14 kids in total.
Wow, 14.
14. They grew up in Georgia, then moved to Florida. Their parents were farm workers.
Hardworking folks.
Yeah, they moved around a lot for work, picking crops.
The migrant life.
Exactly. John and Clarence, they were super close, practically inseparable, and get this, they were amazing swimmers.
Really?
Even in cold water. Like, they were known for swimming in Lake Michigan when there was still ice on it.
That's nuts. So they were used to cold water.
Which makes you think maybe they had a better shot in the bay than most people would.
Right, right. Makes you wonder.
Now, Clarence's first run-in with the law was at 14, breaking into a service station.
Starting young.
By the early 50s, he and John were teaming up, robbing banks, other places.
So they were already career criminals before Alcatraz.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
They always said, though, that they never wanted to hurt anybody, that they only targeted places after they closed.
Interesting.
And they claimed they mostly used a toy gun just to scare people. They only used a real one once, they said.
Okay.
So in 58, they rob a bank in Alabama with their brother, Alfred.
Another brother.
Yep. All three of them get 35 years.
That's a long time.
They did time in Florida, Leavenworth, then Atlanta.
The big leagues.
And guess what? They tried to escape from Atlanta multiple times.
These guys were determined.
Which is how they ended up on Alcatraz, right? John got there in October 1960, inmate AZ 1476, Clarence in January 61, AZ 1485.
So Alcatraz was like the ultimate challenge for them.
Seems like it.
So we've got our mastermind and our swimming duo. Who's the fourth guy?
Alan West. Born in New York in 1929, long rap sheet, over 20 arrests.
Yikes.
Yeah. He ended up in prison for car theft in 55, started in Atlanta, then Florida State Prison.
So he knew the Anglins from before.
Exactly. They all crossed paths in the system. And guess what? He tried to escape from the Florida prison, too.
Figures.
So that earned him a one-way ticket to Alcatraz in 57. He was inmate AZ 1335.
So they were all connected in a way.
Yeah, from those earlier prisons. And then in December 1961, they end up in adjacent cells on Alcatraz.
Like fate brought them together for this.
Right. And with Morris being the brains of the operation, they start hatching this incredible plan.
Okay, so break it down for me. How did they even begin to think about escaping Alcatraz?
Well, for 6 months, they were working on this plan every detail.
Wow, 6 months of planning.
They had to. It was Alcatraz after all.
True, true. So what was step one?
Their first hurdle, getting out of those cells, they started by widening the ventilation ducts under their sinks.
Under the sinks. How did they do
They
that?
were resourceful, man. They used discarded saw blades, spoons from the mess hall, even made a drill out of a vacuum cleaner motor.
Wait, they built a drill.
They did. It's amazing what you can do when you're desperate.
That's some serious ingenuity.
Right. And to hide what they were doing, they used painted cardboard to cover the holes.
Smart.
And to muffle the sounds of the work, Morris would play his accordion during music hour.
No way. So they were using the prison routine as cover.
Exactly. So they chip away at those vents for months, and eventually they're big enough to squeeze through.
So they're out of their cells. What then?
They could get into the utility corridor behind the cells, unguarded,
Oh, so that's their way out.
and from there, they could climb up to the top level of the cell block, which was empty.
So that became their secret workshop.
Basically. They snuck up there at night, working on their escape gear.
But what kind of gear did they make? I mean, it's not like they could just walk out the front door.
No, definitely not. They collected over 50 raincoats, plus other stuff, and made life preservers out of them.
Life preservers. Where did they get that idea?
From Popular Mechanics. Seriously. Morris found a design in an article from March 1962.
You're kidding. So they were reading DIY magazines in Alcatraz?
Yep. They were studying survival guides while plotting their escape. Crazy, right?
That's just wild.
It shows how dedicated they were, you know? They weren't leaving anything to chance.
I guess so. What else did they make?
Well, the big one, a raft. A 6 by 14-foot raft.
Whoa, that's huge. How'd they make that in prison?
Stitched it together by hand using raincoats and other materials. They sealed the seams with liquid plastic, somehow got it from the workshops,
Resourceful.
used the heat from the steam pipes to help seal it.
Makeshift engineering at its finest.
They even made paddles from plywood and screws. I mean, the level of craftsmanship is pretty impressive.
Okay, so they've got life preservers, a raft, paddles. How did they get off the island?
They had to get to the roof first. There was a ventilation shaft leading up there, and they figured out how to remove a big fan at the top, carefully taking out the rivets.
So if they're on the roof, now what?
That was just one part of the plan.
So many moving pieces.
Right. But all this time, while they're working on their escape, they have to make it look like they're still in their cells.
Yeah, how did they do that?
The dummy heads. I'm sure you've heard about those.
Oh yeah, the fake heads in the beds.
They made them out of soap, toothpaste, concrete dust, toilet paper, all mixed together.
Sounds gross.
It does, right? Then they painted them with paint from the maintenance shop, even used real hair from the barber shop.
They look real.
Creepy real. They put them on their pillows, arranged their blankets just right so it looked like they were sleeping.
That's both ingenious and kind of disturbing.
I know, right? So June 11th rolls around. They're ready to put their plan into action.
The big night.
And this is where Alan West runs into a problem. He had used cement to reinforce the concrete around his vent, try and make it easier to remove.
Right.
But the cement hardened too much.
Oh, no.
So when he tried to get out, the grill got stuck. Totally jammed. By the time he got it loose, Morris and the Anglins were already gone.
They left him behind.
They had to. They couldn't wait. It was now or never.
So he was just stuck there.
He was devastated, apparently. He just went back to his cell and went to sleep.
What a crushing blow.
So Morris and the Anglins, they make it to the roof through the ventilation shaft. They're hauling all their gear with them.
All that stuff they made.
And as they're breaking through the top of the shaft, the guards hear a loud crash.
But they don't investigate.
For some reason, no. They got lucky.
Concrete break.
So they get everything up and over the roof. Then they have to climb down a 50-foot kitchen vent pipe.
50 feet, that's like a 5-story building.
And then they still have to get past 2 12-foot barbed wire fences.
They weren't messing around with security.
Nope. They chose their launch point carefully, though.
Where was that?
The northeast shore, near the power plant.
Why there?
It was a blind spot, out of sight of the searchlights and the guard towers.
Lever.
They get down there, inflate their raft using a modified concertina.
A concertina, like the musical instrument.
Yep, they turned it into a bellows.
I can't believe how creative these guys were.
They had to be, so they launched the raft sometime after 10 p.m.
Into the freezing water.
And they're headed north toward Angel Island, 2 miles away.
That water is brutal.
Yeah, the cold, the currents, it's dangerous.
So they're off the island, but now they've got a whole new set of challenges.
Right. This is where the dummy heads really come in.
The guards didn't even know they were gone.
Not until morning. It wasn't until the next morning, June 12th, that the guards realized they'd been tricked.
Because of the fake heads.
Exactly. Once they figured it out, though, all hell broke loose.
I bet.
A huge search operation, Coast Guard, FBI, everyone.
Searching the bay, the island, everywhere.
For 10 days, they searched.
And they found some things, right?
They did. On June 14th, they found a paddle floating near Angel Island.
So maybe they made it that far.
Maybe. The same day, they found a wallet wrapped in plastic not far from where they found the paddle.
Whose wallet was it?
One of the Anglins.
Yeah.
It had pictures of their friends and family, addresses, everything.
So that's definitely connected to them.
No doubt. Then, a week later, they find pieces of raincoat material, like from their raft, washed up near the Golden Gate Bridge.
Oh, wow. That's pretty far from Alcatraz.
And the next day, a deflated life jacket, same material as the raft, pops up near Alcatraz.
Back near the island.
So the evidence is kind of scattered.
Yeah, all over the place.
And those are the only things they ever found.
No other trace?
Nope. So the FBI, they looked at all this and figured, okay, they probably drowned.
Makes sense, I guess. The bay is dangerous.
But here's the thing, they never found any bodies.
Oh, right. No bodies.
So you can't be 100% sure.
True. And there was that report from a Norwegian ship, wasn't there?
Yeah, the SS Norefjell. About a month after the escape, they reported seeing a body in the ocean west of the Golden Gate Bridge.
Could that have been one of them?
Maybe. But they didn't retrieve the body, and they didn't report it until months later.
Well, that's weird.
The coroner in San Francisco, he didn't think it was one of the escapees.
Why not?
He said a body wouldn't float that long. It would decompose or get eaten by animals. He thought it was probably a guy who had jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge a few days earlier.
Okay.
But get this, other coroners from nearby counties, they disagreed.
They did.
They said it was possible, given the currents and stuff, that the body could have drifted from Alcatraz.
So even the experts couldn't agree.
Nope. The FBI, their final word was that it was possible to reach Angel Island on a raft, but the odds were stacked against them.
Yeah, the cold, the currents.
Plus, Alan West had said they planned to steal clothes and a car once they got to land.
Right.
But there were no reports of any thefts like that around Angel Island.
So another point against them surviving.
Right. So what about West? What happened to him after all this?
Well, since he cooperated with the investigation, they didn't charge him with anything.
He got lucky there.
After Alcatraz closed, they moved him to a prison in Washington, then back to Atlanta.
Bouncing around the system.
Then in '67, he actually got parole.
He got out.
Yeah. But guess what? He gets arrested again the next year in Florida. Grand larceny.
Oh, man, back to his old ways.
He ended up back in Florida State Prison, serving multiple sentences, even a life sentence for killing another inmate.
Whoa, that escalated quickly.
Yeah, he died in prison in '78 from peritonitis. It's a painful inflammation of the abdomen, often caused by infections.
So close to freedom, and then that
A sad ending.
makes you think about that other escape attempt, the one where the guy actually made it.
Oh, yeah, the swimmer?
John Paul Scott. He tried to swim from Alcatraz in December 1962, just a few months after Morris and the Anglins.
How did he even attempt that?
He used inflatable armbands made from rubber gloves.
Rubber gloves. Seriously.
That's what they say. He swam almost 3 miles and reached Fort Point under the Golden Gate Bridge.
He made it that far.
Yeah? Some teenagers found him there, almost dead from hypothermia.
Wow.
They nursed him back to health, and you know where they sent him.
Back to Alcatraz.
You brought back to the...
Irony.
I know, right? But he's the only one they know for sure actually made it to shore.
And nowadays, people swim that same route all the time for triathlons and stuff.
Yeah, with wetsuits and proper gear, it's not as impossible as it used to seem.
Right.
So Alcatraz closes down in March 1963, less than a year after the big escape. You think the escape had anything to do with that?
Well, it probably didn't help their reputation. But the main reasons were money and deterioration.
Makes sense.
It cost a fortune to run Alcatraz, way more than other prisons.
Plus, the salt air and water were eating away at the concrete and steel.
The island was literally falling apart.
So it was time to shut it down.
Yep. The FBI, they officially closed their investigation in December 1979.
17 years later.
They stuck with the drowning theory, based on what they found, or rather, what they didn't find.
But the story doesn't end there, right?
Yep. The U.S. Marshal Service, they took over the case, and it's still open.
Seriously?
They still have an active warrant out for Morris and the Anglins.
After all this time?
They say they're still following up on leads.
Wow.
The warrant expires in 2030, so we'll see what happens.
So it's not over yet.
Not officially.
And of course, there have been all these reported sightings over the
Oh,
years.
yeah, people claiming to have seen them all over the place.
It's hard to know what to believe.
Definitely. Like, in 1965, the FBI actually investigated a rumor that Clarence Anglin was living in Brazil.
They went all the way to Brazil.
They did, but they found nothing.
Then there was that guy who claimed to have seen Frank Morris in Maryland in '67,
Uh-huh.
but he wouldn't give any details, so it's probably nothing.
Sounds sketchy.
The Anglin family, they've always believed their brothers survived.
Right, they've been adamant about that.
They've talked about getting unsigned postcards, cryptic messages, even a Christmas card supposedly from John.
Interesting.
Robert Anglin, their brother, he said he got weird phone calls, just heavy breathing on the other end.
Spooky.
Their mother got flowers every Mother's Day, anonymously, until she died.
They thought it was from their sons.
They did. There were even rumors of 2 tall women at her funeral, maybe John and Clarence in disguise.
Wow.
Robert also said that at their father's funeral in '89, 2 strangers showed up, looked at the casket, cried, and left without talking to anyone.
Like they were paying their respects in secret.
Exactly. And there were a bunch of sightings in Florida and Georgia back in the '60s and '70s, but nothing concrete.
Just glimpses, no real proof.
But then you've got more specific sightings, like in '89 when that woman Kathy called Unsolved Mysteries.
What was that about?
She said a picture of Clarence Anglin looked just like a guy living near Marianna, Florida.
Did you check it out?
And another woman backed her up, said she knew the guy, described him perfectly. And someone else in the same area said a sketch of Frank Morris looked like a guy she'd seen.
So 3 separate people all saying they saw them.
And get this, the day after the escape, someone claiming to be John Anglin called a lawyer in San Francisco.
Trying to get in touch with the authorities.
Yeah, but he wanted to set conditions before meeting with anyone, and the lawyer refused.
So the call ended, and they never found out if it was really him.
Then there's the San Francisco police officer, Robert Cecchi.
What did he see?
He said he saw a boat near Alcatraz early on June 12th, acting suspicious.
Like a getaway boat.
Maybe. It headed out towards the Golden Gate Bridge.
Maybe someone was helping them.
But the FBI investigated and dismissed his story, said it didn't add up.
So we're back to square one.
But then you've got stories from other former inmates.
Like who?
In '93, this guy, Thomas Kent, went on America's Most Wanted.
What did he say?
He claimed he helped plan the escape, said Clarence Anglin's girlfriend was supposed to meet them and drive them to Mexico.
Wow, a whole network.
But he didn't escape himself because he couldn't swim, he said.
Convenient.
The cops didn't really believe him, though, especially since he got paid for the interview.
Yeah, that makes it sound less credible.
And in the same year, a guy named John Leroy Kelly made a deathbed confession.
Wow, dramatic.
He said he and a friend picked up Morris and the Anglins in a boat, took them to Seattle, and then killed them for money.
That's dark.
They searched the spot he mentioned but found nothing.
So, probably another false lead.
More recently, a 2011 documentary claimed that a raft was actually found on Angel Island the day after the escape.
Really? I thought the FBI said they didn't find a raft.
That's what they said, but this documentary claimed otherwise. They even said there were footprints leading away from the raft.
Interesting.
And there was a blue Chevrolet reported stolen in Marin County that same day, which was in the news back then. And then the next day, a guy in Stockton said he was run off the road by 3 men in a blue Chevrolet.
Sounds like they were heading east.
Possibly. And that same year, a guy named Bud Morris popped up, said he was Frank Morris's cousin.
What did he say?
He said he bribed guards at Alcatraz and even met Frank in San Diego after the escape.
Did anyone believe him?
His daughter said she remembered meeting Frank too, but it's hard to say.
Another piece of the puzzle.
Then you have scientists from Delft University in the Netherlands.
What did they do?
They studied the ocean currents and said it was possible for the escapees to reach Horseshoe Bay, north of the Golden Gate Bridge, if they left Alcatraz around 11:30 p.m.
So maybe the currents were in their favor.
And their model of how debris would drift matched up with where they found the paddle and wallet.
So more evidence that they might have survived.
Then in 2015, the History Channel did a documentary.
What did they find?
The Anglin family showed them Christmas cards they said they got from John and Clarence after the escape. Handwriting experts said it matched the Anglin's writing, but there were no postmarks, so they couldn't be sure when they were sent.
Right.
And a family friend, Fred Brizzi, he claimed he saw the Anglins in Rio de Janeiro in 1975.
Brazil again?
Yeah. He even had photos, and forensic analysis suggested it could be them.
Wow.
Brizzy also said maybe they didn't use the raft to escape, but that they attached themselves to a ferry somehow.
Interesting theory.
But Brizzy was a known smuggler and con man, so people were skeptical.
Right. Can't always trust those types.
And his wife denied the whole thing.
Oh, so even she didn't believe him.
But then, in 2020, they used AI to analyze the photos, and it said it probably was the Anglins.
So the technology's catching up.
Robert Anglin said he talked to his brothers until 87 and that they were planning to go to Brazil to look for them.
That's risky with an active warrant.
For sure. And then there's that letter.
A letter.
The FBI got a letter in 2013, supposedly from John Anglin.
Wow.
He said Frank Morris died in 2008 and Clarence in 2011.
So they live long lives, if that's true.
And he offered to turn himself in if they'd give him medical treatment.
But they couldn't prove it was really him.
Nope. And Mission Declassified did an episode in 2019. They found more evidence about the raft and the blue Chevrolet sightings.
Oh, yeah, the stolen car.
They even said 3 guys matching the descriptions tried to get a place to live in South Carolina.
Making their way across the country.
And we can't forget Mythbusters.
They did an episode about this.
Yeah, back in 2003, they tried to recreate the escape and said it was possible.
So even they couldn't rule it out.
It's a story full of twists and turns, with evidence popping up all over the place.
And for every piece of evidence, there's someone saying it's fake or unreliable.
That's what makes it so fascinating, right? It's a mystery with no easy answers.
The official story is that they drowned, but there's enough out there to make you wonder.
And popular culture has latched onto that mystery. You've got the book Escape from Alcatraz from '63, the Clint Eastwood movie in '79.
Classics.
Then there's a TV movie, Terror on Alcatraz, Dear Eleanor, even a nod to it in Loki.
People can't get enough of this story.
And there are graphic novels, too. One that came out recently, and another one coming out in 2025.
It just keeps inspiring new interpretations.
It's crazy to think this all started with just 3 guys and a dream of freedom.
They weren't the only ones who tried to escape Alcatraz, though.
Right. There were 14 escape attempts in total.
36 inmates.
Some got caught, some were killed, some drowned.
And 5, including Morris and the Anglins, are still missing.
So they achieved the impossible, breaking out of Alcatraz.
But did they really escape? That's the question that keeps us coming back to this story.
Did they make it to land? Did they disappear into new lives? Or did the Bay claim them in the end?
We have the official reports, the physical evidence, the scientific studies.
And then we have the rumors, the sightings, the family's unwavering belief that they survived.
It's a puzzle with missing pieces.
So we're left with this enduring mystery, a story that continues to capture our imaginations.
A testament to the human desire for freedom, no matter the cost.
And a reminder that sometimes the truth remains elusive.
Lost to the currents, like a message in a bottle.
It makes you wonder, what would it take to finally solve this mystery? What piece of evidence could definitively prove what happened to them?
A confession, a photograph, DNA evidence.
Maybe something totally unexpected will surface someday.
Or maybe the truth is lost forever.
And that's the beauty and the frustration of this story.
The mystery lives on.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the Alcatraz escape. We hope you enjoyed it.
Until next time.
Keep those theories coming.